There is a door. It is not a metaphor. It is real. It exists in the world right now, and on the other side of it is a version of your life that is larger, more connected, more full of possibility than the one you are currently living. The door is a language, and the language is English. I know what you might be thinking. You have heard this before. English is important, yes. Everyone knows English is important. It is the language of business, of technology, of international communication. You have been told this since you were a child sitting in a classroom, conjugating verbs and memorizing vocabulary lists, and wondering when any of it would actually matter. But today I do not want to tell you that English is important in the abstract way that people always talk about it, in the way that makes it sound like a qualification to add to your resume, a box to check, a skill level to display next to your name on a professional profile. I want to tell you something different, something more personal and more urgent. I want to tell you what actually happens to a person's life when they cross from one side of the language barrier to the other. What changes? What opens? What becomes possible that was simply not possible before? Because it is not just a career advantage. It is not just a practical tool. For millions of people around the world, learning English has been nothing less than a complete transformation of who they are and what their life can look like. Let us start with the most fundamental thing, the thing that is so basic that it is often overlooked in conversations about language learning. English is the language of access. Not because English is inherently superior to any other language. It is not. Every language carries within it a unique way of seeing the world, a particular music, a history that belongs to the people who speak it. The richness of human linguistic diversity is something to be celebrated and preserved, not reduced. But facts are facts, and the fact is this: approximately 1.5 billion people speak English, either as a first or second language. It is the primary language of the internet, where more than half of all content is in English. It is the official language of over 60 countries and the de facto language of international diplomacy, science, aviation, medicine, and global business. More academic papers are published in English than in all other languages combined. More films, more books, more music, more journalism, more technological innovation reaches the world first through English. This is not a value judgment, it is the landscape. And the person who can navigate that landscape fluently has access to a world that is simply invisible to the person who cannot. Think about what access means in practical terms. Access to information. The best courses in the world, from the best universities, are taught in English. The most current research in medicine, in psychology, in technology, in business, in every field that shapes the modern world, is written in English. The person who reads English can learn from the best minds alive today, wherever they are in the world, whenever they choose, for free or at minimal cost. The person who cannot is dependent on what has been translated, what has been filtered through someone else's choices about what is worth sharing. That is a significant difference, not a small administrative inconvenience, a fundamental difference in the quality and range of information available to guide your decisions and your growth. Access to opportunity. The global job market, for most professional fields, is conducted largely in English. The multinational companies that pay the highest salaries, that offer the most interesting work, that operate at the cutting edge of their industries, these companies communicate, negotiate, present, and hire in English. The person who can walk into that environment and operate comfortably has a competitive advantage over the person who cannot, that no amount of technical skill alone can fully compensate for. This is not about replacing your native language in your professional life. It is about having the option to apply for the international position, the option to pitch to the global client, the option to collaborate with a team in another country, the option to be considered for the opportunity that would otherwise go to someone with the same skills, but the additional capability of English fluency. access to people. This is the one that changes lives in ways that career statistics cannot capture. The world is full of extraordinary human beings, people who think differently from the people around you, who have lived experiences that would reshape your understanding of the world, who carry wisdom and creativity and perspective that would enrich your life in ways you cannot currently imagine. Most of them do not speak your native language. English is the common ground. It is the place where a software developer from Nigeria and a designer from Brazil and an entrepreneur from Vietnam can meet and collaborate and build something together. It is the place where friendships form across continents, where ideas cross borders, where the limitation of being born in one particular country with one particular language stops being a limitation. The person who speaks English fluently lives in a larger world. Not geographically necessarily, though often that too, but cognitively, socially, intellectually. Their world is populated by a wider range of human beings, a wider range of ideas, a wider range of possibilities for who they can become and what they can contribute. Now let us talk about something that language teachers often skip over because it is harder to quantify than vocabulary size or grammar proficiency. Let us talk about what happens inside a person when they become fluent in a second language. Something extraordinary happens, and it has been documented by linguists, psychologists, and neuroscientists. You develop what researchers call a second perspective, because language is not just a tool for expressing thoughts. Language shapes thoughts. The categories your language provides determine, to a significant degree, the categories through which you perceive reality. Different languages carve up the world differently. They have different concepts, different distinctions, different ways of expressing time and space and relationship and obligation. When you learn English well enough to think in it, not to translate from your native language, but to actually form thoughts directly in English, you gain access to a different cognitive framework, a different set of categories and distinctions, a different way of seeing. Bilingual people consistently score higher on measures of cognitive flexibility, the ability to shift between different ways of thinking, to see problems from multiple angles, to resist the automatic assumptions that come from seeing the world only through one linguistic lens. They develop a kind of mental agility that monolingual people, regardless of intelligence, simply do not have in the same way. This is not about being smarter, it is about being more adaptable, more capable of perspective taking, more able to understand people who see the world differently from you. In a world that is increasingly complex, increasingly interconnected, increasingly requiring the ability to navigate difference, that adaptability is one of the most valuable cognitive tools a human being can possess. And there is something else, something more personal. Many people who have learned English as a second language describe experiencing a kind of liberation in the new language that they did not feel in their native one. A freedom to express parts of themselves that were somehow constrained by the social expectations attached to their mother tongue. A permission to be bolder, more direct, more experimental in their thinking, in their self-expression. This makes psychological sense. Our native language is loaded. It carries the weight of our entire history, our childhood, our family dynamics, our cultural programming, our earliest experiences of shame and praise and belonging. Every word we speak in our native language is resonating with all of that history. A second language is lighter, freer. It is a space where you can try on different ways of expressing yourself without the full weight of your history attached to every word. Where you can be, in a very real sense, a slightly different version of yourself. Not a fake version, but an expanded one. A version that has access to a wider range of expression, a wider range of social possibility, a wider range of the person you are capable of becoming. People change when they learn a language, not superficially, fundamentally. Now I want to address something that is sitting in the back of many people's minds as they hear all of this. A quiet but persistent voice that says, "Yes, but this is not for me." English is something that other people achieve. People who had better schools, better teachers, more time, more money, more natural talent for languages. I have been trying for years, and I am still not where I need to be. Maybe I am just not someone who can learn English well. I want you to hear this clearly. That voice is not telling you the truth. It is telling you a story that your past experiences have constructed, a story that mistakes the difficulty of an inadequate method for a fundamental limit of your capability. There is no such thing as a person who cannot learn a language. The human brain is specifically designed at the level of its architecture to acquire language. Every human being who is neurologically typical, regardless of age, regardless of educational background, regardless of how many times they have started and stopped, has the neurological equipment to become fluent in English. What most people are missing is not capacity, it is method and clarity, and the understanding of what language acquisition actually is and how it actually works. Language acquisition is not memorization. It is not the accumulation of vocabulary lists and grammar rules. It is an immersive, experiential process that happens through exposure and use and the gradual construction of intuition. It happens when you encounter the language in meaningful contexts, repeatedly, over time, with enough comprehensible input to allow your brain to begin detecting the patterns beneath the surface. The person who spends years in formal English classes, memorizing rules and drilling exercises, and remains unable to hold a conversation, that person has not failed to learn English. They have been failed by an approach to teaching it that treats language as a set of facts to be memorized, rather than a living system to be inhabited. The approach that works is different. It is messier, more personal, more alive. It involves listening to English every day, not to study it, but to absorb it. Watching content you genuinely enjoy in English, with English subtitles, until the sound and the symbol merge into recognition. Reading material that is slightly above your current level, but within reach. Material that challenges your understanding without defeating it. And speaking, actually speaking, imperfectly, embarrassingly, early and often, and without waiting until you are ready. Because speaking is not the reward for learning the language, it is the method. The key insight is this: fluency is not built by studying a language, it is built by living in one. By making English a presence in your daily life, rather than a subject you visit for an hour and then put away. By surrounding yourself, as much as your circumstances allow, with the sounds and the rhythms and the vocabulary of the language, until your brain begins to treat it as normal, as home. This is possible for you, starting from exactly where you are, not from some better version of your circumstances, from here. Now let me tell you about the moment, because everyone who has crossed to the other side of English fluency describes a moment. It is different for everyone, but the structure of it is the same. It is the first time the language stops being a translation and becomes a thought. The first time you hear something in English and you do not mentally translate it into your native language before understanding it. You just understand it, directly, in English, as if the language were your own. Or the first time you speak in English and you are not assembling sentences from memorized components, consciously checking grammar and searching for vocabulary. You are just talking. The language is flowing from you the way your native language flows, automatically, naturally, as an expression of thought rather than a construction of it. Or the first time you dream in English. People who have had this experience describe it as genuinely transformative, as a before and after, as the moment when the door I described at the beginning of this conversation swings open completely and the world on the other side becomes fully accessible. That moment is not reserved for the naturally gifted. It is not reserved for the young, though it comes more quickly for them. It is the predictable result of consistent, intelligently directed effort over a sufficient period of time. It comes for everyone who does not stop before they arrive at it. And here is what I want you to understand about what is waiting on the other side of that moment. It is not just a career advantage, not just a higher salary or a better job title or access to foreign clients. It is a life that is larger than the one you currently have. A life where the boundaries of your possible world are drawn not by the accident of which language you were born into, but by the full scope of your intelligence, your curiosity, your ambition, and your willingness to reach beyond the familiar. It is conversations you have not yet had with people who will change how you see yourself and the world. Books you have not yet read that will answer questions you have been carrying for years. Opportunities you cannot currently imagine because they are visible only from the other side of the barrier. It is the experience, profound and humbling and genuinely exciting, of discovering that you are capable of more than you believed. That the person who speaks only one language and the person who speaks two are not separated by talent or luck, but by a decision. A decision made and then renewed every day to do the work. English will not solve every problem in your life. It will not guarantee happiness or erase difficulty or make you into someone you are not. It is a tool, and a tool is only as powerful as the person who wields it with intention and commitment. But it is a tool that, in the world we actually live in, changes what is possible, concretely, measurably, for real people with real lives and real dreams that deserve a real chance at becoming reality. The door is there. It has always been there. It is not locked. It does not require a special key that some people are born with and others are not. It requires showing up, every day, imperfectly, without waiting until you feel ready, or until your circumstances are better, or until some future version of yourself arrives who is more prepared for the journey. It requires 10 minutes today and 10 minutes tomorrow, and the accumulation of those minutes into hours and hours, into months and months, into the fluency that changes everything. You are already here. You are already listening. You are already doing the work. Do not stop. The future that English makes possible is already waiting for you. Open the door.